I've never been in a house so big that 40 people could be in at once, and it's hard to find everybody.
You can be on one wing of the house and not see anybody.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened.
40 to 50 people in this house, and you'll be in one room, and there's 2 people, and you're like, where the hell is everyone at?
Yeah,
Like,
so it kind of paints some context to how large this house is.
You can get lost. You can get lost
Yeah.
as well.
they were putting money on their bowling games last night, which was pretty funny, you know.
Yeah, I was part of that.
Were you part of that?
I was.
Did
I
you
wasn't-
lose or win?
I wasn't gambling, but I was on.
Did you come out ahead or?
No, our team lost. Not because of me, but we lost.
You're watching Shift Happens Beyond the Boxes, where we take a look at the inner workings of the moving industry.
Hey guys, Jason Bergenske here today, and I got Eric Wirks and Stephen Reed. I got Wirks Moving and Storage and Big League Movers, also Ready Rolls. He's repping his shirt. We're at Legends Retreat for 2025, and thank you guys for being here.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It was a great experience.
Yeah, today was an awesome day. Today's Saturday, so it's like the last actual full day of Legends Retreat. We'll check out tomorrow morning. Both these guys got to speak at the event, so I think that's kind of, we'll start with that, and then I want to go into both of your guys' moving companies, talk a little bit about operating and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a great episode.
So cool. Eric, you got to speak first. Tell me a little bit as far as like what you saw here, you know, as an event. You do a lot of events.
Yeah.
You do a lot of the big events. You've done some of the home events. You started off in the very beginning doing some of the home events with Wade and Chad, which is awesome. They put on awesome events. What did you kind of feel?
Shout out.
Yeah, for sure. Titan Retreats, I mean, they do a great program. How did you feel as far as doing this type of event, going back to the home, you know, in a house versus, you know, the big ones again?
I forgot how much I missed it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the Titan retreats, they try to do it. It's pretty large now.
Sure.
They do big conference centers. I know the event they're doing this year has like a 2,000
It's huge.
seat theater.
Yeah.
Hope they sell it out.
Yeah.
You know, always supporting them.
For sure.
But no, that's how that started. We never had mansions this size. We had some pretty big ones, but nothing like this monstrosity.
A little bit smaller group.
I've never been in a house so big that 40 people could be in at once, and it's hard to find everybody.
You can be on one wing of the house and not see anybody.
There's 40
I wonder
people.
What happened?
Yeah. 40 to 50 people in this house, and you'll be in one room, and there's 2 people, and you're like, where the hell is everyone at?
Yeah,
Like,
so it kind of paints some context to how large
Yeah.
this house is.
You can get lost. You can get lost as well.
But no, it brought me back to that, and that's how that started. There's something wonderful about the intimacy that happens in a smaller environment.
Yeah.
Definitely see why you're doing that. It just reminded me of how wonderful that is, and definitely reminiscing on that. I'm really excited for your attendees. You know, when I was getting kind of a pulse,
they're taking away so
the
much.
type of audience that I was talking to, asking questions, a lot of guys who are smaller, up and coming, and man,
Very driven.
Yeah, but man, I remember when I was that size, how wonderful it would have been to take advantage of things like this. Things like this did not exist.
Yeah.
Definitely loved giving that feedback and mentoring and just like answering questions and just giving, you know, trying to give my best I could.
Yeah,
based
and I
on my
think, Eric,
experience.
part of your whole talk was your story, which I think is really cool. I mean, you definitely went through some rough times to be able to get to where you're at. But then we kind of realized, like, and I'm not going to put myself in that, but both of you guys have gone through some rough times to go through it. And then we were on the panel, and someone's asking us, which was an interesting question, like, why did any of us take investors? Or did we do that?
That was
And
a
like,
good question.
And which was a very good question, because a lot of people talk about that, you know? But then we all realized, like, no, like, it's part of, which none of us did, but that's part of the hard times we went through to get to where we're at. You know, the struggle
space of
of
learning.
you know, like Mover Pro, when we first started, like, there was times like I put payroll on credit cards. Like, that's terrible. Like, that is rough. That's a very bad position to be in. You know, like doing those certain things. But like, had I had unlimited money at certain points, or like a big investment funneled into it, like, I wouldn't have gone through those times, which would have built us to be what we are today. You know,
Absolutely. You wouldn't have that opportunity to
Yep,
learn.
to learn.
All those hard times.
And so I think that's neat. You know, how about you? As far
Man.
as some of the stuff you,
The setting, I'll talk about that for a minute. This home setting is my vibe.
Yeah.
You know, it's chill.
Yeah.
You know, everybody can come up, ask questions. You can learn a lot of stuff. I was just sitting downstairs. We were eating dinner and just looking around at all the movers who came 2 days ago that didn't know each other and weren't talking too much.
yeah.
And then how many movers are just all there, high-fiving, good friends, pictures all going around. These are lifetime relationships, and that's what I love out of this. I made 39 other friends at this event that I'm going to have that know my goals. I've learned their goals.
Yeah.
And now we're working together. So this kind of event that's what's special about it,
That's
and I'm
what's neat.
thankful you're throwing it on there.
Yeah. The biggest thing is we got to figure out how we fit more people, or maybe we don't. Like, it was packed. Like, the theater was packed. It was starting to get warm. Like, when the primary time was going on, when you were especially speaking, you spoke yesterday, you know, we had them packed in there. And I think the biggest thing was having everyone in one place, but in a almost intimate setting like this.
Yes.
You know, you went to class per se, right, which is in the theater, but then to be able to leave that and then go straight to, you know, going bowling. Or, you know, I think some guys were not gambling, but they were putting money on their bowling games last night, which was pretty funny, you know.
Yeah, I was part of that.
Were you part of that? Yeah. Did you lose or win?
I wasn't gambling, but I was on. It was team versus team, and I got sucked into being on one of the teams, and then two of the heads of the teams were gambling.
Did you come out ahead or?
No, our team lost. Not because of me, but we lost. But it was close.
And so like that's just really like it's neat to have that in this house. I mean, this is what makes it such a neat setting, because having the opportunity to be able to do the class and then have a beer, have a couple drinks or whatever that is, and then be able to go bowling. Obviously, you're not talking business the entire time, but there's tons of stuff too. Like you're actually becoming friends with the people that you're here with, which I think is really cool. And then both of you guys are constantly getting pulled aside. People are like, hey, tell me about this. Hey, tell me about this. Because obviously you guys are running good sized moving companies, right? Or probably bigger than most everyone here. So I think that's huge. And that's why it's, you know, definitely appreciate you guys being here.
Oh man, that's the stuff that fills my cup. That's my dopamine right there. So that's what I love. Thank you for putting this on for that setting.
No, it's been awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. Eric, I'll just kind of come to you. Wirks Moving and Storage. Let's talk about it. Like
I can give you the 10,000 foot view.
Yeah.
That's what we all want.
Yeah, that's what we want. So obviously what year did you start Wirks?
The very end of 2009. So I literally had 1 month.
Got it.
In 2009. And then 2010 was my first year.
So 2009, so that's is that towards the end of the recession, I guess, right? Or mid recession.
I would say the biggest impactful years of the recession were 2009, 2010, and into 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah, Atlanta, because I entered Atlanta in 2012,
Yeah.
2011, and there were still cranes left all over the city.
Yeah.
Like there's still half-built left
Yeah.
buildings and stuff like that. So I even saw it a little bit when I got in there.
So it's kind of a rough time to start, though.
It's like I was sharing with the audience. I said, there's no better time, at least in my experience, to be starting a moving business.
Yep.
Because when you're very, very small and you make mistakes,
Yep.
it's not that expensive.
Yep.
Versus you make a mistake when you're small, it might cost you $500, $1,000. You
Yep.
make a mistake when you're a very large operation, that can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because I've been there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, me too.
So.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing. We've seen it a lot. You know, the COVID time. I mean, obviously, fast forwarding a little bit, not as much your business, but the COVID time, a lot of movers were scared in the very beginning, but then a lot of movers did phenomenally well. I mean, they took off. But that's when so many moving companies opened because they're like, oh, we can make money, and they weren't having to work for leads.
Yeah.
People were just booking moves. There wasn't enough movers. And so they're booking. But those movers, a lot of them, they thought this is the normal. This is an easy industry. This is great. I'm going to go buy a warehouse. I'm going to buy trucks. I'm going to do all this stuff. Obviously, the economy then changed. The interest rates skyrocketed.
Yep.
The overturn of homes were slowed way down. And then the movers started struggling.
Went back to what it was before.
They went back to what it was before.
I'd say a little worse.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
I mean, every market. I mean, our market had like I used to have the exact number, but between a 30 and 40% drop. I know the Florida market was a much more slower impact.
Yeah.
You guys were still booming.
Yeah.
9 months when the rest of us were feeling it.
Yeah. We
You know.
felt it pretty immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
But
the
that's-
shifts happened, the interest rate changed.
And that's the big thing, though, because we saw that. I was actually a lot younger, but you know, my dad during the moving company we had, J&J Metro, was opened in 1968. I remember in 2006, 2007, best years he'd ever had. I mean, there was so much money coming in, you almost didn't know what to do with it. Which that's not a bragging point. It's literally so much because the homes were selling so fast. There was so much business going on.
And a little
Because
flex.
everybody and anybody get a loan.
And
Everyone
a
and
little
anyone
And
could
a
get a
get a
loan.
loan.
And the people that were selling their homes were getting way more than what they thought they were going to get.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everyone was hiring movers. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, you bought a house last year for $150,000. You're selling it for $350 this year. It's like unbelievable amounts of money people were having. And then 2008 hit, and we literally watched half of our competitors go out of business because during that 2006, 2007 time, they all went out and bought brand new warehouses, brand new trucks because they thought that's how it's going to be. It's going to keep going.
So I never recommend this to people. I also have a van line background. So as an owner-operator, I was doing all kinds of local and interstate. When I started, interstate was so huge because everyone was relocating to where they could get a job.
Yeah.
I can't.
there you go.
I have no idea why.
I never thought about that, but
yeah.
that's huge.
So
Yeah.
I don't ever recommend this. I say master one thing, move on to the next. I got my interstate authority
That's smart.
literally within 3 months of being licensed and insured. Like I got my interstate authority right away. I did my first year. I did $250,000, and I want to say 70% of that was interstate work.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't remember the reason why, but I was moving so many people to the metro DC area and the surrounding states
That's
and
where
counties.
they're just getting jobs.
So many people I was moving to the DC area. I had no idea why.
So they're coming from Atlanta going to DC.
I moved so many people to that area for some reason.
That's interesting.
You know,
But
Moving out of that area.
Yeah, moving out. So, but that's the interesting thing, and so that was kind of instilled in us as time went on. That when COVID happened for us, we were very lean. We continued very
Ready
lean.
for it, yeah.
Rode it up, and so that instilled in me with Move It Pro that things are really good because obviously movers were taking off, which means Move It Pro gets super busy, right? There's lots of new movers popping up. We get slammed.
Gross.
And I said, we got to see how this goes. We're not going to go spend it all, which was lucky because then as things started slowing down, a lot of movers went out of business. We've seen some movers been in business 100 years, go out of business, 80 years, go out of business, which is just, I can't imagine. I can't imagine having a family business for 70, 80 years. Jay's Moving was one of our customers, went out of business after 100 years.
It's such a tough draw.
It's
What
just
happened this
shocking to
past, you add the costs going up
Yeah.
on everything too.
Well, everything, insurance or employment, fuel.
Every year, everything is going up. Yeah, and you're getting less work. There's less people moving. It's a real big challenge.
And then the work ethic. I mean, that was a big part of it too with everyone with the COVID money, which had impacted from that, was getting the free money from the government and getting all that stuff from the spiffs on that when we had the moving company still, we actually had some guys that would, look, I can come into work, but we wouldn't do it. You pay me under the table because I'm getting money from the government. So no, we can't do that. Well, I'm not going to mess that up. I'll just sit at home and eat bonbons But that's what we were dealing with.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't just us. Obviously, it was movers all across. We had, JC is one of my good buddies who owns Black Tie Moving. They
Shout
literally,
out JC. We miss you.
We do miss you, buddy. But they were having to fly some of their drivers from one location to another location.
I remember him sharing that story.
Oh, yeah.
Just to cover jobs. And that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy to be flying drivers just to cover local moves. It's inefficient, tons of money for it's just
You're
not
just
worth
trying
it,
to
but
please
they're trying to
customers at
cover
that
just trying to
point.
cover jobs, correct. So I think that's huge.
Here's a word from one of our sponsors.
Running a moving company can be a challenge, especially when it comes to staffing during peak seasons. That's where Lion's Den booking service comes in. We understand the unique needs of moving companies and offer a solution that makes staffing easy and efficient. With Lion's Den, you gain access to a network of reliable professionals ready to assist you at a moment's notice. Our pay-per-minute model allows for flexible scheduling, so you only pay for the time you use. Let us do the hunting, booking, selling for you. And with dedicated support from our team, help is always just a click away. Sign up now and enjoy a 25% discount for the first 3 months of service. Take advantage of this exclusive offer to streamline your operations and maximize your profitability. Join Lion's Den booking service today and revolutionize the way you manage your moving business.
So you went into that. How did talk to me about the beginnings of growing Wirks? Because obviously you started the Recession's right there. You're coming in at the end of the recession, and then obviously you start off. You said your first year was 250,000. You think it was
We're going through hard times.
from international?
We're about to go through the hard times.
I ran with one truck for about 4 months.
Yeah.
And then added. So I had already owned these trucks. I was an owner-operator at Grable. I started there in 2005. I was the youngest owner-operator they ever hired in their system, 23 years old. They ever hired. And then I became a terminal service contractor. And really what a terminal service contractor is someone who runs multiple trucks at the local branch. So basically like your own mini moving company within a big giant corporate moving. And anyone from a van line background, they'll know what I mean when I say terminal service contractor. And I did that within a year. I was taught to be responsible with my money. I got that from my parents, but even still like that age and never making money like that in my life. I was making good 6 figures at 24 years old, I knew better, but my actions were different. And then, and I remember my dad always saying, one of these days, because he'd probably been through 3 or 4 recessions at that time. Yeah. And he's like, you should do this and that, have a nest egg, emergency fund, et cetera, all these things. So I knew, but it wasn't like I was ignorant to it. And then I was not responsible for my money when the 2008 happened. It actually happened towards the end of, towards the fall. I remember when the diesel prices skyrocketed, $5-something a gallon, out of nowhere. That was like the beginning of it. Yeah. No, I just got punched in the face, and I just I lost everything. All my eggs are in the Grable Van Lines basket, so I'm relying on all my work to come from them. So I wasn't getting no work, and then I'm just being foolish. I tried to have that terminal service contracting company I had go on longer than it should have, so I'm paying things with credit cards. Long story short, I went into massive debt. I owned 4 trucks. 2 of them I had paid off Clearly the ones I kept. Other 2 got repossessed. I lost everything. Lost my condo. Next thing you know, I'm like living in an extended stay hotel.
Yep.
Yeah.
So and then I leased them trucks out to bring income in.
Yep.
I worked under the table cash moving jobs.
Yep.
Because I could get those, you know.
And you'd go out obviously and do them at the very beginning. I mean, you're hustling.
Yeah, I've done everything in this industry. I mean, I started out when I was 21 years old as a summer job in between going to school at 2-minute truck.
Yep.
Making $9 an hour.
Yep.
And then moved up through the ranks there. And then when I reached the cap of how far I could go in that organization, that's when I became an owner operator.
At $9.50.
You know. No, I made.
I know, I'm kidding.
No shout out to that. No shout out.
The cool thing about this, the former you mentioned him today, the former general manager who hired me for a first moving job eventually became my GM.
That's
at
awesome.
Works Pivot and Storage.
That's awesome. But he was the first one to hire you?
Yeah.
And then he ended up coming and working at Works.
He didn't hire me right away.
That's amazing.
Because the last job I had before that was selling cars.
Yep.
And he's just like, there's just no way this car salesman is going to come in and do.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of car salesmen that do good in the movie industry. I mean, Tim Krupp used to sell cars when he was younger. I mean,
you grind when you sell
Yeah,
cars. I mean,
yeah,
you
I mean,
figure out how to
know
sell.
how to do it.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, I was decent at selling cars. I left that position because it was this. It was the first. It was the first dealership and only dealership I ever worked for. It was my only experience selling cars.
Yeah.
So they're probably not all created equal.
Sure.
The one I worked with was pretty shady, and I was asked to do some things that I did not do.
Yep.
Long story short, there was this lady that came in one time, was on a very strict budget, and then I put her in this one car that was in her budget. She could afford everything else, and they wanted me to kick her over to this other car so they could
For more
offload
money.
it. Yeah, and they would have put her like over her budget.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do it, and then the salesman did an authority taker. I still ended up getting commission for it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do it as I didn't feel right about it. And so because they convinced her into doing it. When you're on a tight budget, like you don't want to
came in there with a budget.
Yeah,
It's not,
so it was a win-win, and they were just they were greedy about it. And then after that, I ended up quitting that job. Not long after, I was like, I'm not going to work for this company.
Yeah. That was a smart decision.
Eric was better to be an entrepreneur, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So obviously, you went through all of that, and then what kind of led? I guess where were you at when you hit your first million? How many years in, or what did that first million look like?
Million and top line of the company?
Correct. At Works when you're
Year
doing
3.
Works. So year 3.
Yeah.
So that was a hard hustle. I mean, the first million's usually the hardest.
The first year, 18 months. I'm never shy about this. It was probably one of the worst experiences of my life.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that today.
Yeah. I absolutely hated my life. I had 15 different job titles. I'm sure this all sounds familiar, Stephen.
Oh, yeah.
15 different job titles. A light day was 15 hours.
Yep.
Put in lots of 20-hour days. Slept.
Because you're out on the truck. You were doing every hat. I mean, we've all done
slept at the office a lot of times, and I was sharing a warehouse space of this screen print and embroidery company, so I'm smelling these fumes all day long. But I am so grateful because the lady who owned that company gave me an office and 1,500 square feet of space that easily on the going market was $1,500 a month for $500 a month.
Well, that was a blessing.
That's amazing.
I was happy. In a way to smell
yeah.
those fumes, but at the end of the day, it would like I'd be a little.
You just left work high every day.
Yeah, it got to me.
Not really, but
no, I wanted to light on. I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I was smoking so many cigarettes a day. I put on 20 pounds. I ruined. I don't know. I mean, I ruined a relationship.
Yep.
But I had so.
All for a reason.
Yeah, and then things eventually came together.
Yep.
And it was worth it.
What about you? What was your first million?
First million we hit the second year.
So second year. So big league movers. That was obviously only out at Memphis.
Yep. All I know is growth. So we hit it fast and we hit it running on that side.
So when you day one you started, obviously I knew you had a partner before, but I mean you guys from the beginning, because you were you started with $1,000?
Yes, $1,000.
2,000.
2,000. So I see a trend.
Yeah.
So $1,000. So obviously you were out on the truck from day one. I mean, you were having to help or no?
But I mean, I did some moves, but my main goal was I knew what I wanted to be, right?
Yep.
And I had a crew, and I taught them how to do my expectations on that side. And I started with a crew from the get-go.
Were you doing moving at all before you started Big Leagues?
Yes. Yeah, I worked for a buddy, Colquitt Van Dyke. That was the dad, but I worked for Major, his son.
Okay.
And in high school and college a little bit, we'd go pick up movers and do things.
So you kind of knew
move things around. I knew kind of the lay of the land a little bit. Right? What to do, and I saw the struggles a little bit. From being with my friend.
And then learn from that. Because you moved to Atlanta, you had hit $1 million there also.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to hit $1 million there? And that was a new market.
That was 1 year.
That was quick. You had a lot more money though, I guess, to fuel fuel that, you think?
I went to Atlanta on that side. When I went to Atlanta, so I was the first moving company to do a living social. I spent my second year, I saw where they were growing, right? I saw where Groupon, Living Social, they were selling goods at the time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like Woot. They would sell one item of the day and everybody would buy it.
I remember that one. That was a long time ago.
Shout out to Woot.
Yeah. I think there's
Any
still
other
around.
Wooters out there?
Yeah. A deal a day.
And so I pitched them for almost a year to do a home service company. And this is how they couldn't really fathom how we do it. And it's kind of hard how you kind of think about that. How do you do how many hours? What do you do there? And I pitched them and they gave me a shot at it and we sold a lot.
So you did good with it when you did it.
Yeah. I mean, they gave you the money up front.
Yep.
Taught my staff how to deal with the hardest customers, but that led me to look around and test other markets, watch their Groupon.
That's interesting.
Right. So I saw an opportunity. I took one of my trucks down and my best guy and sold Groupons, and we sold like 700, over 700. So before we started with 700 moves.
Wow.
There's a key thing Steven said in all that, especially in the beginning, that I try to tell up and coming entrepreneur movers all the time. And it's probably why he grew so fast. It might not have been constructive all the way, but one of the reasons why he was off the trucks way before I was.
Yeah, on day one almost.
That's a good point.
I tell moving company owners or people who are starting up, I said, fire yourself
Soon as
from
possible.
the trucks as soon as possible.
Yep.
So you can make those decisions and grow your business.
Because I had zero time, because that plus all the job, I had zero time to put anything in place to build anything. I'm just I'm running with my head around.
Well, and it's such a hard job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, another career you're starting and you're working in an office all day and then you do your grind at night. Like this is out on a truck all day. You're exhausted.
It's hard to call back
and then
customers
now you got to
and
do
things
sales
like
calls, and then you got you don't even have time for it. So that totally makes sense. And
that.
that's
I
one of
wouldn't
the things.
I would never leave the office while I had moves going on.
Yeah.
So my job, if you were to have one move that day or zero moves that day, if I had one move that day until it was done, and that was before I stopped people early. I mean, I'd go till 2 a.m. if we had to, right? But I'd always check my guys back in, and I spent that whole time, if I got my work done,
working on
trying to find another job. I was going through FSBO.com, FSBO, for sale by owner, and if you think about it, that's the owner. So that's the direct contact. That's the original form of USA Home Listings for me. Yeah, and that's
Thanks for
how I
shout out,
hustle.
Steven.
And
nice plug.
And I had some great friends supporting me. We would ride around and I would try to shake hands with anybody that had a for sale sign. I'd leave a flyer in their mailbox. Just always on. Yeah. Always trying to look for more business and grow.
Yeah. And I think that's great that you picked that up because it's true. I mean, and I hear it all the time. I mean, we'll get guys that are running a decent moving company, but they're still out on the truck every day. And they got 2 or 3 trucks and that's it. They're capped. And every time they try and get off the truck, they're constantly back on it. And
it's just things I remember because you don't know. I didn't know that at the time. I look back and I know these things now. It's like
you just don't know.
It's like what I was talking about today in the thing. Like, what's some things I could change or whatever. Yeah, I tell her to get off the truck as fast as possible.
Yeah.
If you are going to have a business partner, make sure your visions are aligned. If they're not aligned, you want to really slow down growth opportunity.
Yeah.
Have a business partner that conflicts. You have experience with that.
Yep.
We both bought our partners out, and when I bought my partner out, and great relationship because it was a family member of mine. Great, still love them. Great relationship, but I exploded.
Yep.
When there was no longer, and I don't blame them. They were 23 years older than me.
Yeah.
We had different mindsets,
different views, different mindsets on where it was going.
Just an example of that. Like you don't know what you don't know until you do, and this is things I learned after the fact.
I think that's where you come from too. So all I knew was the moving company I worked for.
Yeah.
And they had 4 trucks.
Yeah.
Right. But I saw the gentleman that owned it.
You saw the opportunity
never on
there.
one of the trucks.
Yeah.
Right. So I was kind of modeling him.
True.
Right. Where you were modeling more hands-on what you already did.
Yeah.
Because he was
the 4
at Grable.
trucks.
Yeah.
Right?
My experience was the van line model and the 2-minute truck model.
And you were the contractor for the van line, so that's what you knew. That's what you knew to put your hands on the product.
I mean, thank God I had the sales rep.
Yeah.
But even still, like quality problem. He was booking so much work, and then I'm just running around with my head cut off trying to make all this stuff happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Eric mentioned his first office. My first office was at my partner's house, and we had a room. There's a middle room, right? It was just kind of a weird layout, but there's no windows in the middle room, right? And it was real small, and I ran out of there until the neighbors thought we were drug dealers or whatever was going on. 'Cause I had Penske's running up in there.
Penske's going up, guys, little weird guys showing up to the house, picking up trucks and leaving, dropping cash off.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing over there, but it's not good, And we had to go get a real office after that. That was my first office.
Yeah, really and I think one of the things we was kind of discussed today too was about partners, and I think. We were even at dinner, we were talking about it, is that so many people, you hear bad stories of partners. And it doesn't mean that every partnership's going to work out. Yeah. But so many of them you hear of guys that started off with a partner, and the companies exploded when it was over, or the partnership ended.
Well, it was young. I mean, we were young, right? And I think at least in my case, I didn't realize that it's as important as a marriage.
Yeah.
To be aligned with that person on where you're going as a business.
I never had a bad partnership like some of the horror shows. But they all had expiration dates, and they all that were agreeable. I've never had a partnership that ended that ended badly.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily mean that in a bad.
No, I know.
But like with your company taking off afterwards,
good.
But like I think being held up so much with like speed to implementation, like. There are times, and my team will tell you, like, I'll think of something at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night that we're changing.
Same thing here.
I mean, we are changing in our organization, and the next day we're implementing it. Like, there's no, like, and I can't even imagine in my head, and some of those have been phenomenal. I think some of them have failed, but some of them have been phenomenal changes in our organization. I can't imagine, I got to run it by this person, and then you're like, it just makes it a lot harder. And so I think that's probably why some of them fail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and even I fully admit it. Like knowing what I know now, I would have probably bought my partner out a year or two earlier than I did.
Sure.
You know.
So that makes sense. So obviously, now we're at $1 million.
I would have never had one
for both of you. You had never had one. Yeah. You went through. Yours was a little rougher.
Well, I just say it's a lot, and not because of the person, but it's a lot for me. Hardest worker in the room, right? Yeah. I wake up at 3 and think about business. You've seen it here.
Dude, I see your Facebook posts at like 4 a.m. and I'm like, what is he doing?
Like clockwork.
And then I see it at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, what is he doing?
Either I don't know what Jason's saying. What is he doing up? Clearly, he's not gone to bed yet.
Dude, I got a newborn baby.
He's got a newborn baby.
I got an 11-month-old baby. I got an excuse to be up.
but to expect that person to bring in what I was going to bring in the org and it be a real partnership was just. It was wrong from the get-go.
And that's in most partnerships, I think. I mean, it's very hard, I think, typically to get the same completely equal on every level partnership. Usually someone's going to have more money in the game. Someone's going to have more work. They're working more. And at some point, things start to get out unbalanced. And I don't know if that's not in every situation, but in your specific situation maybe. That's where it starts getting harder and harder and harder.
It was. And it comes to a point where you're doing more. And when somebody says, something like, hey, we should pay ourselves more, I have a different vision. I'm not where we want to be.
Yeah.
So when we get in the stuff where we're paying ourselves mode, I got to be able to scale. And if you're not active in the business, right, that's where the pain point comes. You're limiting our growth.
You're pulling the money that I can grow with.
Yeah, and that's where it started to get pretty cut and dry to me. It was time to move.
What revenue size were you when you ended the partnership?
So we entered the partnership in 2014. 2014, so it's 2 years in Atlanta. So that was about $4 million.
Okay.
3.5, 4 million in that range.
So you've grown over double since that time.
In one location.
In one location. That's true. That was 2 locations.
Yeah, that was 2 locations.
That was both. Wow. Yeah. So that's interesting. So going back a little bit, so we were, right now we're at $1 million. So
I had to pay him for the Atlanta location just because he was a part of the partnership. He didn't even visit Atlanta once on that side. So just kind of that's where it kind of.
And then you ended up fire selling it.
Yeah.
Which goes into a whole nother story, which is amazing. Maybe not in this one, but what goes into it. So the first $1 million usually is the hardest, they say. So $3 million. I know it doesn't have to be exact $3 million, but how long do you think it took you to get to the $3 million mark?
I stayed between the $2 and $3 million mark until the end of 2018.
Okay.
We're getting right before.
Which still, $3 million moving company is still doing is a good sized moving company.
That's one of the things I've learned about that. That's one of them situations, and I think that's the highest that most owners ever get to.
Yep.
That's right around the time where you need to start bringing in other leadership or other high level managers. It's where the owner can't do everything, or the owner has to learn to give up control.
That's where all your SOPs are getting implemented. Everything's completely getting changed.
That's the final break point where we need to have documentation. We need to have system. We need to,
all T's, all I's, nothing funny.
Yep.
That's one of the conflicts
Sure.
with my partner. No, I don't want to do this. I like the way it is. I'm
Comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's an example of not pursuing and doing those things is that I stayed in that range substantially longer than we should have.
Kind of stuck you.
And the reality was it actually made business a lot harder.
Yeah.
Business is so much easier when you get all that stuff in place.
When you
It
got
really
more
is.
cash flow and
It
more.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier for the employees that work.
Yeah.
I couldn't even and keep in mind there were CRMs out at that point
Sure.
in time, and I couldn't even convince them to get on board with a CRM. We were still doing until the end of 2018. We were still doing old school Excel,
Google.
Google,
Yeah, Google.
pen, paper.
Man, at least you had Google and Excel. Like when I came into my dad's, man, they're using typewriters.
We
to
weren't
do bill
even-
of lading.
we weren't even-
I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking.
I couldn't even.
He's talking about the file cabinet today.
this
Go to
is-
the
this-
leads
this
for the
is-
day.
It's crazy to think back that I can't believe we used to be this way.
Yeah.
No, we weren't even on QuickBooks software. Our bookkeeping and accounting was done on spreadsheets and macros and QuickBooks and Excel and stuff like that. I mean, it worked, but it was so
But now-
time consuming.
But how much nicer it is now to be able to pull a profit and loss at any second, at any time, at any day.
Here's a word from one of our sponsors.
Attention moving company owners. Are you tired of managing your business with spreadsheets and pen and paper methods? Do you want to streamline your operations, increase your bookings, and look more professional to your customers? Then it's time to switch to Move It Pro software. Our cloud-based platform provides everything you need to manage your moving company in one place, from booking and dispatching to payment processing and customer communication. Plus, with features like GPS tracking, real-time notifications, and detailed reporting, you'll be able to optimize your operations and take your business to the next level. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.moveitpro.com to schedule a free demo today and see how we can help you move your business forward.
There's a perfect example.
like that, you know?
Rather than just clicking a button, it would take
done.
forever
Yeah.
to get just financial information.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The first few years, my grandmother was my accountant,
Yep.
and she was pretty old school.
Was she giving you attaboys as she's
She was giving me manual column spreadsheets from Office Max. I had the big column pads, and I was
know what you're
literally
talking
doing
about. I
every
know what you're talking
transaction like a checkbook.
Hold on, you were
Like,
handwriting them all.
Yeah, column pad. I'd turn her in.
I know what you're talking
turn
about. My
in
dad
there.
had
Yeah. So I was really in tune with my numbers because I had to write everything down every day, right? But that's old school. So a little bit of old school in me. My CRM wasn't that good.
Yeah.
It was the moving manager. I don't even know if that's still around or it was, but
Probably
it was
not.
just this very simple.
Our dispatch board was
Cell,
this
you
big
know,
giant chalkboard,
Whiteboard or
big,
something?
Yeah.
I mean, giant, like two entire wall rooms.
Yeah.
Of chalkboard paint. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
But it was like you could probably I swear you could probably go back in time on our Facebook
And see the stuff.
I'm sure it's there. I'm sure it might be.
I
There's got to
remember-
be something there.
Something. Yeah.
I remember being a kid and my dad's, in our moving company, and in the warehouse was like a 4 foot by 8 foot map of Central Florida. So you have to think before Google Maps or MapQuest.
MapQuest. Before you're
Yeah,
going before. I
bro,
don't know
I'm
about
going
before
MapQuest.
Yeah,
I'm saying the guys are.
I remember. I was a mover using the map books. I remember it.
Yeah,
I
the
used the
guys
map
are
books when I
going
first
out in the
drove.
morning and they're going, oh, where's this house? Oh, let me see. They're going, oh, let me go out in the warehouse, and they're looking at the map and following the roads. Oh, I gotta go here. Go.
E4.
Like,
The streets on
unbelievable.
E4.
No, a
Go
2 minute
back.
truck because I became a driver right away.
Yeah.
A 2 minute truck, and I'm 21 years old. 21 just turned 22 years old, and I remember we would get there 15 minutes early,
Yep.
and then we would route plan.
Yeah.
We'd pull out the map book
And figure it all
then
out.
We would route
Thank
plan.
goodness we don't have
and
that.
then this is where I get frustrated because and then your passenger would guide you,
Yeah.
help you route plan, and now you say and now it's just GPS, and then it's the funniest thing is you trying to convince the passenger. We don't have the product, but trying to get the passenger, hey, you tailor the directions, or hey, take this customer
Oh,
call.
yeah.
We were actually
Working together.
more of a team.
Yeah.
Because you had to.
Yep.
Because the technology didn't give you an excuse. There was no technology.
There was nothing.
You
And,
you had to be a team to make your day easier.
and God forbid you made a wrong turn. You didn't have anything to tell you.
We had the CB radios. We're in the trucks. The CB
Oh, yeah.
radios.
Yeah, I
I'm
did
not that old.
Yeah.
But
don't know why I did
I was
CB
old
radios.
enough to have a job as a mover, and we're
With a
talking
CB
early
radio on it.
2000s where we didn't have the GPS. We didn't have the MapQuest. But I remember MapQuest came out pretty quick.
I remember when MapQuest
that
came
was-
out. It was a game changer.
That was glorious.
We
To be
got
able to
printers
print out
in the
your
office.
directions.
We got printers. You're printing those out every day.
It was awesome.
Oh man, I totally forgot. My dad still calls Google Maps MapQuest because he'll be like, "Hey, you got a MapQuest for that?" He probably doesn't anymore because he uses his phone finally. But yeah, that's hilarious. So that's cool. So obviously, we're up to 3 million there. So what were you first 3 million? How long were you into that?
Man, it was 3 years, in Atlanta. So I was at the 5th year mark.
You said that. So
Yeah.
3 million there.
Yeah.
Got it. So we do the next one. What do you think? 5 or 6?
Yeah, that was the stage that I had trouble with. I hit 5 and kind of landed.
Are you stuck at 5 for a
Right,
bit?
and then the business owned me.
Yeah.
Absolutely drove me. It's having 2 of them.
You had
in
both
2
locations still at
about
5 million?
half and half. Yeah.
Were they about an even split or what?
Yeah, they're
Memphis was
about
bigger.
an
or
even
what?
split at that point.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was mostly in Atlanta.
Okay.
So I brought the
So you were
I
building
brought the
that
growth.
puppy up.
Yeah, I brought the growth on that side. And
You guys didn't know each other yet, right?
no, we didn't know
You're
each other.
competitors, but didn't know each
We
other.
didn't even know each other really as competitors till later, I think.
No,
Pretty
but
much,
we
we went different marketing strategies a little bit.
But we would still come up against each other.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in Atlanta, I was big on, I was a daily dealer.
We quote a lot of the same customers.
Yeah. And then I was big on Yelp. I was big on Yelp
Oh,
starting
you're a
out
big
in
Yelp.
Atlanta.
Oh, Yelp.
I
Don't get me
know-
started on Yelp.
I know our guys know
But,
customer
yeah,
service.
only
though.
we weren't really doing Yelp, but only in the house. We were direct mailing heavily, so only on the housing side.
Do you still do Yelp? Or no?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm an anti-Yelper. I'm an
Yeah, I'm a
anti-Grouponer.
big
Just for the
anti-Yelper,
record,
yeah.
I'm an anti-Grouponer. I'm sorry, industry.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah.
We-
Anti-Yelper. And your branded trucks have always been the same, right? Since you
No.
started or inception or no?
No. I started out with an ugly mug, like burgundy and gold, and I had a little baseball clip art guy with
baseball.
muscles.
Yes,
Yeah, he
yes.
had little muscles, little yellow arms and muscles, and flexing. I don't know how I didn't get in trouble for that clip art thing. And I put him on the truck, and it was I bought a U-Haul, painted the orange burgundy. It was just ugly on that side. So that was my first brand.
Where were you at revenue wise? You think when you rebranded?
Right about what you're talking
Right
about.
about then, so around 5 million?
Right about the 3
3
million.
million.
When I rebranded.
Got
Yeah,
it.
That's,
That's cool.
so pretty close in before I started kind of getting most of my.
Because I like your trucks.
Yeah,
I mean,
most
that's,
of the fleet.
but our trucks were red, so
Yeah.
I like red.
I'm partial.
So.
When I saw your red, I'm like, oh, I love that.
I like that
stuff.
red. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
red pops, and
Yeah.
I hired a marketing company local in Memphis. They did a great job with
Yep.
it. Charged me a little much, but
Yeah.
they did a great job.
As they do.
And I love my brand. I'm really excited about it. They
Yeah.
did great, and I hadn't looked back on it. Really.
That's good. What are your guys talking brand stuff? What's your guys' uniforms like?
Yeah, so
you
we
doing?
wear a dry fit red shirt
Yep.
and navy blue pants. So keep it comfortable.
So we're dry fit red polos, but the dry fit ones and Dickies, gray Dickies.
Team captains, we get them a different shirt now. It's hardest worker in the room.
Yep.
And it says team captain on it. So
Does it say hardest worker in the room?
yeah, it is. It does.
For the team captains?
Yeah, it's really hard to not be a hardest worker in the room when you're
Yeah.
wearing that shirt. right? You
Everyone's
can't-
got hardest worker
You
in the
can't
room.
be lazy and let somebody outwork you on the crew, right?
Yeah.
We do that too. There's
awesome.
and it's good to do that where there's a separation of the
Yeah.
of the general uniform versus like your crew leads.
Well, and the customer too knows who to go to.
And they all,
and
100%. It's good.
It
Yeah.
kind of levels that.
And the guys have a sense of pride with that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure the same with you. They earn those shirts.
My first unis, going back to the ugly brand, and Steve's original,
Them burgundy
was the softball tees.
Okay.
The raglands, and they had the burgundy
with
and
the, with the
gray. They're
lines.
real cool.
Yeah, the lines.
Yeah. It's the ragland. It's kind of like softball as
Yeah,
you
yeah.
play at co-ed,
Okay.
right? And those are cool. Those were cool. But they were hot. I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about it, three-quarter sleeves in the Memphis heat.
Yeah.
Pretty rough.
Oh man. So 5 million for you. How far in was that? you
The
think?
very next year.
So that was a big. So as soon as
So I bought,
Hyped up.
as soon as I bought my partner out, the very next year 5.
because then you're going.
Yeah. It's like I had so much pent up things that I wanted to do. I put in so many hours because I wanted to.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I was making for lost time.
Yeah.
I feel like I was playing catch up.
Was part of the growth you think fueled because you had a buyout in there because you were having to pay money out for a buyout, so you had to fund that? You feel?
Yeah,
or,
I mean,
or was
well, here's the cool thing about having a great relationship with my partner and being
Sure.
my family. Where, like, you could say I may be overpaid by like $50,000, but I was content with it because the interest rate was stupid.
sure?
Good.
Yeah.
Stupid good.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yep.
So and they didn't want it all at once.
Yep.
They like the idea of having
sure.
payments
Getting money
for a long
continually
time.
coming in.
So at the end of the day, like someone who does valuation could say, "Well, you overpaid by $50,000." At the end of the day, they're happy. I'm happy. It's a good business deal.
But at the end of the day, probably you didn't overpay because
No.
interest. Had you gone out and gotten a loan to do it, you would have paid
Yeah.
significantly more.
No, I could have paid it all off.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I'm very frugal with my money. I
Sure.
could have paid it all off, but they didn't want it like that.
How was your office at $5 million? Tell me about the evolution of that from the huffing to the next size. I think that's a challenge a lot of movers have is when to move.
It's when to get in the
move.
office
Yeah.
and storage. We haven't even talked about storage. Like when, yeah. We'll get into that a little bit.
Me, ops manager, general manager. We didn't have any sales management. All outside sales. Customer service with book appointments. We had 2 customer service people. I might be missing some. I'm trying to remember this.
Yeah.
You had storage already, I assume.
Yeah, and we had. Did we have a warehouse? Yeah, and we had because we had. This is where we started doing our own mechanic shop.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And we
Yeah,
had
that's all good,
and our fleet manager who could be a mechanic. Our person doing they were wearing several hats. They were managing the warehouse,
Yep.
fixing the trucks,
Yep.
and then doing like fleet management.
They're doing all your oil
And-
changes, doing all your
fleet management,
PM.
and then the
Yep.
ops manager now would co-tackle like DOT and compliance.
Yep.
You know, things like that.
That's good. You guys have your own mechanic in-house? or what do you
No,
guys have?
I've always been pretty hands free on that.
Yeah.
On that side, so we've always had that struggle. So that's kind of why I do a new truck model now. You know, before that, buying all those old trucks is very detrimental when we didn't have somebody on hand to pay those.
Oh, for sure.
It almost seems like every time you go to the shop is $8K. You know,
Yeah.
before on that side. Before.
We actually completely got rid of that about 18 months ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
New trucks now?
Well, what happened is that it got to the point. It was the right call for a while. We saved a lot of money on maintenance costs, and then until it didn't.
Yep.
Until like that became its own animal, and we're like, hey, wait a second, we're a moving company,
Not a
mechanic
maintenance company, yeah.
shop.
Yeah.
And it was becoming a distraction from the main business. And
Starting to store all kinds of spare parts and
then
do this.
and then like just like anything, like if you're only focused so much on this, only so much on that, both suffer.
Yep.
Eventually, our maintenance costs became substantially more than it should be because it wasn't getting neglected.
Yeah.
And we completely got rid of that, and and I've always bought new trucks. We put like a life cycle replacement.
What's your usual life cycle? You do it by miles or year, or what do you?
The fleet manager at the time, the one that we ran is the one that he comes from the Army. So
Okay.
we run the
So it's-
we run the vehicle life
It's a
cycle
strict
replacement
one.
that they run.
Yep.
Yeah, we adapted the one and it was fantastic. So
Yep.
we adapted the one that they run. I want to say now we don't have a truck older than 2015 now.
Okay.
But all our trucks now are pretty much brand new. Most of our trucks now are all 2020 to 2024.
Yep.
Yeah, I think as soon as I could, I was done with the headaches that were trucks breaking
Yeah.
down and the
then we
shop, the
long-term
shop
leased
bills
them.
being like I'd had no clue what I was going to get hit with shop bills.
Yeah. And it was hard to buy trucks for a little bit during COVID.
Yeah.
If you needed them. I mean, that was.
Yeah, I have a great dealer in there that had some trucks,
That all right?
so I was lucky in that regard.
Do you long-term lease things? We long-term lease a few. You long-term lease
Because of
any?
COVID, I had to long-term
Yeah.
lease a few, and I regret it. But yeah, but because of the situation, to get
I think we only got 3. We got 3 we long-term lease.
Why do you regret it?
the turn-ins.
Yeah.
The turn-ins are never fun. I guess I'll regret it later.
You're saying
I
they
know
always
that.
ding you.
Yeah, they ding you hard. Like
Yep.
they ding you for the, some companies are better than the others, right? Number 1 is not good. Number 2 is not good to you either. But when they turn you in, they see it as a moneymaker.
Yep.
So not only just repair your truck and charge you over it to make a 7-year truck old,
Yeah.
a 7-year-old truck new.
Yeah.
Right?
Which
Let's
is obviously
replace
it's
the
not.
roof.
Yeah.
It's going to have dings. It's a roof, right?
Yeah.
On the top of it. You don't need to replace all the panels.
I've never gone to rent a truck, even if it's a year old there, and it looks brand new.
But the
So
main,
how do they expect you to return it back brand new?
and the main game they play
Yeah.
is I'm going to charge you just like your lease until we find the parts and do all the repairs. So during COVID, I
they
got
couldn't
hurt
find
with
parts.
that. Yeah,
Oh,
I
man.
got hurt with that.
That's almost
that
criminal.
reminds me. I had this brand new truck. I think this is in the year 2021.
Yep.
And even on brand new trucks, sometimes little things happen. I had this brand new truck down for 9 months because of a $150 part because we could not get anywhere in the country. I think there was a huge electronics store.
That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
It was some $150 part, and I had this brand new $100,000 truck that I couldn't run for 9 months because of this $150 part. It took 9 months to get.
Your insurance on it was more than that a month on it. Jeez.
So,
All right, so we're at 5 million. So both now. So what do we want to do next? 7 million?
very next year.
Very next year.
Very
so
next
you're
year.
just
Yeah. And then the very next year to that was 10.
yeah.
So I ended up staying there for a little while, and then fire selling Atlanta and going back down.
So then you drop back down.
Dropped back down.
So did that drop in half then?
Dropped back down to 3.5 at that time.
So that's a little gut wrenching, right?
Well, that year,
all that revenue,
that year
but at
I
the same
switched because I
time-
was focused on it. I guess I was actually, when I dropped Atlanta, I was at 3 in Memphis. I guess I ended up that year at 3.5.
Yeah. So
Trying to go back and roll through it.
Because you tell a story. I mean, part of your story was you came back to Memphis and your team said we're out of money.
No, well, that was before I left.
That was before.
That was when I had Atlanta and Memphis. That was part of the long time I was at that 5 million stage.
Yep.
Right.
But
and
so at
I
that
had
5
a child.
million.
Yeah. Had a child early.
Yep.
Right. And had to go to the hospital 3.5 months. Baby's okay. No one's doing great. Just had his 8th birthday.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I stayed in the hospital 3.5 months and my business wasn't ready. Everything was falling
You had
through me.
both locations doing 5.5 million
Total together. Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And you come back to work
We had no money.
after all of that, and we have no money,
We had no money.
which is unbelievable. I mean, when you think about that, so all of you out there listening to this, most of you listen to this, you go, man, he's doing $5.5 million. Man, he's doing great.
Doing great.
I mean, that's a good moving company. 2 locations, $5.5 million.
That's how fast they can get away from you
Just
if you're
like
not
that.
watching everything.
Family emergency, got to go deal with it. Come back, and we're out of money.
And I'd put a growth initiative and plan that I was kind of in charge of and didn't get all the details.
Yeah.
So I gave the details to the sales guy. He did a killer job. Gave the details to the operation manager. Didn't do such a killer job. And what happened was it was restoration work, right? And if you got to really vet the restoration company you're working with, by the way.
Yeah.
Anybody
So
out
you
there.
get paid?
If you're working with somebody, there's some shady ones out there that don't pay their bills.
A lot of them.
And from there, I ended up having to write off bad debt of $350,000 of work we did that I never got paid for when I came back. And so the operations and the sales having different initiatives not being on the same and me being gone unexpected, they made some decisions they thought were best for me, but were not best for the organization. So the salesman kept selling, doing a great job, excited. That's what he was supposed to do. Operations guy didn't recruit new movers. He was newer. I invested in him. He was a 2-minute-a-truck guy.
Yep.
And I invested in him and didn't get to spend that time with him to really push recruiting. We got to recruit, because he's not used to that kind of growth,
Sure.
right, that the sales guy was putting on with the restoration.
Yep.
And so they made a decision while I was away as a unit, my office manager too, that Steve would rather have the restoration work because it's up to $100,000 per account a year instead of one-off customers. What they didn't realize is they were replacing my COD work, my cash on site work, right? I was getting paid on that work. That was supposed to, remember, I don't have a credit line or anything. I guess I shared that earlier, but I was doing all cash, right? And so we replaced all the work that I was paying
Cash
for,
money coming
all the
in
growth
with
money that was
COD
going to pay for that, to hold the money,
Yeah.
to then having $350,000 of work not paid. Well, it's more than that, but some of it actually paid.
It's rough, man.
Yeah, and so I came back to, I went in the hospital, had a great growth initiative, and came out and it went haywire. And
And I think what's even more impactful on that entire thing is during that, you were going through a tragedy. Not only you found out at home, right? Your child, almost losing your child, all that stuff, where you think everything's good, and then coming to work and that's falling apart too. And then having this, you're split. Now you have this, your baby was premature.
Yeah, premature.
So super premature, and you're having to, you're trying to save both babies.
Yes.
Your business baby and obviously your real one and your wife.
And roughest year of my life. My cousin had passed away that year too. So I was dealing with grief too, and he's like my rock. So even I'm getting emotional saying it right now, but he's like my rock. It's a tough year.
It's a terrible year. But part of that is what's built you to be where you're at, and thank God
I wouldn't be where I am without
son?
all those things. Yeah.
Or your daughter
my son. My son
was your son.
Yeah, on that side.
And thank God he's
my
still
daughter.
here.
My daughter tried to come early too, but that's a little later. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, that's a little.
So that's awesome. So obviously this is kind of where you guys are at.
I went right back into the fire to save the babies, though. You know, like I was still in growth mode. I went right into it, and I was. For that 3.5 months, I should share this, man. I spent 2.5 years recovering with a fire hose in my business. Like it went from that day I came back, got that word, and it was like, man, I'm putting out that my business has changed. I'm putting out fires over here. Cash changes everything.
Did your employees change since you had been gone? In the sense of, were you able to recover and fix? Was there employee problems when you came back, I guess?
Absolutely.
Because the culture, obviously, you were more in Atlanta during a lot of that time, right? And so the culture, obviously, at that time, were very part of the culture of what's built the company and all of that, and not being there.
Absolutely. My office manager shared that news with me with a resignation notice because I don't, at that time. So it was like that was really kind of my right hand at that time. And so
What year was that?
2016, 2017, right in between the two.
Right in there.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's. I mean, I just can't imagine. I mean, going through bam, 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 multiple things right in a row.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of look at it and I say with what was going on with Nolan, my son, with what was going on with my cousin, in some weird ways, I needed an escape to be putting on firehouses to not see to be able to deal with
focus.
it all. Yeah.
You were then focused on business and fixing it.
When you're running the company short on money, like behind on money, and you're not knowing that, you're not knowing how to deal with that, you're not even knowing where the holes are, the books aren't there. It's just you're fighting in the dark.
Yeah.
And it's really tough, but your staff's not happy that when you're not making decisions for customers. Claims are different when you're trying to make payroll.
Yeah.
Right. And as you said, put it on credit cards. I was there all the time.
Yeah.
At that time. Bridge loans.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just trying to kick the curb, keep the thing open. So morale, I changed.
Yeah.
Right. As that leader that I talk about now.
Yeah.
At that point, I had been that before, but then they're totally confused. There's a different pressure.
Yeah.
And then me telling them, like, how dare you take care of a customer like that? We don't have money, and it's just confusion in the whole staff. So it was rough for everybody to go through that.
It's rough.
Thanks for tuning into our podcast. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and get notified each time a new one comes out. We'll see you next time.